If you want to know what we are, Part 3, 2021, inspired by Carlos Bulosan and Don Mabalon. If you want to know what we are, look upon this land you call America, under the fog of Daly City to just below the powers of the District of Columbia, from the shining seas of San Diego and Oxnard to the shining lights of Broadway and Hollywood, from Seattle to Chicago, Long Beach to Virginia Beach, from Stockton to Detroit, the PNW to the DMV, from Oahu and Big Island to Queens and Long Island. We work in the hospitals of Houston and in the restaurants north and south of Houston, snacking on the salmon sinigang of Alaska and the sisig tacos of Los Angeles. We are here, we are there, we are here because you were there, and because you were there, we are now everywhere. If you want to know what we are, look upon the kitchen tables, the tables that serve whoever comes through the door, the lolos, the lolas, the cuyas, the ates, the cates, the titos, the titas, the titexes, the third and fourth cousins, the visitors from the Philippines, the barkada, the kababayan, the anti-assembly line, the non-Pinoy friends, your parents' coworkers, the neighbors, the partners, the relatives for who you do not know how you're actually related, the chosen family. Everyone is welcome. Look upon the multi-course dinners to celebrate birthdays and anniversaries, or because there was a sale at Ranch 99. The trays atop tables for post-funeral lunches and 40 days of novenas. The kitchen tables that planned meetings and conferences and protests and movements. The dining room tables that help write curricula and syllabi and correct children's homework. They say that if you're not invited to the table, that you have to build your own. So that's what we did. Everyone has a seat at this table every single time, except during the holidays or family parties. The house is so packed, you have to eat with your plate on your lap. If you want to know what we are, look for the karaoke microphones, the magical music made by our melodic mouths, accompanied by the instrumentals and lit up words, performed best with a San Miguel or a Tito's and soda or a Tito taking shots of everything but soda. Witness the ways that performance has been injected into our veins, how we've learned to entertain our families and ourselves. The "Auntie, I don't know how to sing" to 5 minutes later, "On my own, pretending he's beside me." Our first lessons in code switching, balancing the act between humble and fierce, from rolling our R's when we sing Mark Anthony or Selena, to culturally connecting to R&B, hip hop, and soul, to internalizing the knowledge of all-American pop and colorblind rock and roll. Our years of dancing choreo like Britney and belting ballads like Whitney were mere rehearsals for future PCNs and barrio fiestas and karaoke nights. Our ease at the mic was the introductory lesson to using our voices, not just to sing, but to speak, to challenge, to scream, to revolt. If you want to know what we are, look for the X's and the A's and the O's, the P's and the F's, the Pinays and the Pinoys and the Pinexes, the Filipinas and the Filipinos and the Filipinexes, constantly redefining ourselves to find something that fits, making room for inclusivity wherever we go, challenging the namesake of a colonizer who never set foot on the archipelago. Positively all identities allowed, positively all identities celebrated. If you want to know what we are, look upon our traumas, the way that we know how to attack each other where it hurts, the crabs clawing communities, the complicity concurrent to complacency, the inability to acknowledge that infighting is exactly what capitalist colonial oppressors crave. If only we focused on healing instead of hating, celebrating instead of negating, empowering instead of destroying, perhaps we could all get out of this barrel. If you want to know what we are, look upon the underpaid jobs, the domestic workers, the nannies, the caregivers of elderly and children, the laborers who sometimes don't see their own parents or children because they take care of yours. Look upon the middle management positions with little opportunity for growth, the brilliant brown minds made to manage microaggressions, the tenure track faculty battling impostership while avoiding well-intentioned allyship, the adjuncts teaching 5 classes just to ensure their basic needs are met, the veterans with PTSD fighting wars for others and wars within themselves, the postal workers and janitors, the social workers and teachers, the healthcare providers in ERs and ICUs working overtime to send money overseas to relatives more distant over time. If you want to know what we are, look upon the streets, holding signs that Black Lives Matter and to stop Asian hate, knowing we are not free until everyone is, disrupting colorism, anti-Blackness, sexism, transphobia and homophobia, ableism, colonial mentality and xenophobia in our own communities, screaming brown Asians exist in our other communities, channeling the spirits of the ancestors and the fighting Filipinos from Lapu-Lapu and Gabriela to Carlos to Larry to Philip to Uncle Fred and Manang Don. We pick up where they left off. We pick each other up when another one falls. If you want to know what we are, look in the classrooms, the library stacks, people yearning to learn about decolonizing, absorbing, not just memorizing, undoing the centuries of systemic oppression, unlearning the years of colonial repression, following the ancestors and listening to their stories, commemorating the struggles and not just the glories. Look at the educators teaching ethnic studies in person and via Zoom, reading books to their kids at home and in kindergarten classrooms, providing free lessons on Twitter and TikTok and IG, knowing the importance of representation because you can't be what you can't see. If you want to know what we are, look upon the big screens and small screens, the theaters, dance floors, and stages, telling our stories, preserving our histories, ensuring the next generation knows that our stories are their stories, and her stories and his stories are our stories. We are the 4 million descendants of the survivors of 4 centuries of oppression. We are the Manila men, the Benchiados, the laborers on plantations of Hawaii, the canneries of Alaska and Seattle, the farms of the California Delta. We work the jobs you didn't want, but we were blamed for stealing them. We are the nurses, the laborers less paid to take care of the people you deemed disposable. We are always the first to show up, not just because we're generous and good people, but because we need that work to survive. The nurses who aided those living with AIDS, and 30 years later, those with COVID-19 were just doing their jobs, risking their own lives so that you could live, sacrificing their own lives so that their own families could live. You may not see us, or maybe you do, but you hardly ever let us through the door. And even when you do, you underestimate our power. You see, we are the powerful, the revolutionaries, the visionaries, the hopeful, the ones building brighter futures. We are the creators, the connectors, the artists, the writers, the poets, the distinguished scholars, the philanthropists, the believers, the mentors with open door policies and a need for better boundaries, the decolonizing disruptors, the huggers, the handholders, the encouragers, the ones who go to therapy, the generation privileged enough to rest. We are the fighters, the loudmouths, the ones who will never ever forget where we came from. We are the humble, the fierce, the relentless, the resilient who resent resilience, forever grateful for paths blazed by our ancestors, intentional that the trails behind us are wider and easier to find. If you want to know what we are unstoppable.